Okay, hello everyone, welcome once again. This is the study of Andrade Doodling. Yeah, okay, this is the first study under the cognitive approach. All right, let's dive into it. Yeah, I have the impact of doodling on cognitive performance. Is it going to enhance memory or not? Let's watch out. Now, the first question I'm going to ask: how good is your memory? How good are you at your remembering things? Are you very good? Or you're struggling to remember things, activities going on in your life? Okay, let's try this out. Think back to yesterday. Okay, what did you have for breakfast? Can you remember? Is it easy for you? I think that is recent, though. You might still be able to think, but how long did it take you? Try to process that. Okay, was it easy or hard to remember? What do you think? Okay, now why do you think that is? Why do you think it was difficult to remember? Okay, I mean, this is an activity that you experienced, you witnessed, all right, and then I believe you concentrated when you were doing it. But why do you think it's easy for you to remember? Why do you think it's hard for you to remember? Okay, now in this study, we're going to look at different key terms: attention, number one; multitasking, number two; daydreaming, number three; and then lastly, we have doodling. Okay. Now, I took the screenshot online. Okay, the video is not that clear, but please let's just bear with me. Now, we have attention. We have focused attention, and then we have divided attention. Now, focused attention. Imagine you're going to you went to a party, and then you were looking for your younger sister. All right. So imagine yourself in that situation. You were looking around for your younger sister. Okay, maybe you were just going home. All right, you were in a hurry, and then you just discovered, okay, you're late, and then you have to rush home before your parents arrive, okay, and then you need to just pick your little sister and then run home, and then you're looking for your little sister. Now in this crowd do you know, it's actually, how do you think the experience would be like? Okay, I've actually experienced something similar before, and then I've discovered that it is possible that every other person I met on the way while trying to look around for my sister, I might not be able to recollect who they were, in the sense that I might move past a particular person that, if you ask me, did I move past this person, I might not be able to tell you if I did or not, because I wasn't focusing on the person. I was rather focusing on any image that looks like my younger sister. All right. So I have a focused attention. I'm looking exactly for that amongst that crowd. Any other person that do not represent that, my brain just doesn't focus on the person. All right. And then I have divided attention. Now, imagine you're driving a car and then you're holding a conversation with someone. Okay. How do you think that is going to be like? Okay. Um, do you think it's actually easy to do? I mean, you're driving and then you're holding a conversation. If you're new to driving, I think it's going to really be a very difficult task. Okay, it was also difficult for me when I learned to ride my bike. Okay, it was very difficult to be riding and then at the same time talking with the person behind me. All right, but eventually it got easier over time. Why do you think it got easier? Okay, yeah. Okay, so generally speaking, splitting mental effort, all right? You're doing this, so a part of you is into the driving and then a part of you is into the conversation. So it's possible for us to have divided attention, and it's possible to have focused attention where you ignore every other detail and focus on one thing. All right, moving forward, we have the divided attention, we have primary task and then main task, and then we have concurrent task. Okay, now under this, when you're driving and then you're holding a conversation, you have the concept of primary task, which is also known as the main task now. All right, and then the concurrent task. The concurrent task can be talking with someone, and then the primary task might be driving. So you're more focused on this thing than the conversation you're having with maybe your spouse. All right. So, and let me chip this in. When we talk about, okay, I'm going to talk about it. Okay, let me just say this before I move on. All right. Primary task is generally what you focused more. It's your priority at that moment, and then concurrent is the secondary task. Okay. Now moving to multitasking. Now, uh, do you think multitasking is actually possible? Do you think it's possible to multitask? What do you think? Well, we go around often saying that, okay, I multitask, I multitask. Do you think multitasking is possible? That is doing many things at the same time? Well, yes or no? Think about it for a second. Is it possible to multitask? Well, we actually multitask, but the concept of multitask is not necessarily to do many things at the same time simultaneously, but rather what we do as humans is that we switch between tasks. Okay, I believe that is making sense, right? All right, we switch between tasks. That is, we have our primary task at the particular time, and then we have the secondary task. So when we are satisfied with that at the particular point in time, we switch again. The primary task goes down to what was the secondary task, and then the secondary task becomes the primary, becomes what was the secondary the primary task. Okay, so basically we just switch between both, or we switch between activities. So it's more like, let me use myself as an example here. When I'm riding my bike and then I'm holding a conversation. Now, if I can see a heavy traffic ahead of me, now if I'm holding a conversation, my conversation becomes the concurrent task at that moment, and then I focus mainly on the vehicles ahead of me, so I'll be safe. Now, when I get to a particular point in time where I have less vehicles ahead, so it's just a free road where I can move easily. There, I can just more like switch my mind to automatic um, um, base, automatic level, all right, such that driving becomes secondary task at that moment, and then I focus on my conversation. There, I can even be creative with my conversation, try to um, create some jokes, okay, while riding by. But if I notice all of a sudden, for example, a car is just trying to come, or let me say, move into my lane, then it will be a little difficult for me to still be creative with my jokes. I have to focus on the riding. Okay, so multitasking, now performing multiple tasks at the same time, or switching between them. So we actually switch. Do we actually carry out the task alternatively or simultaneously? So psychologists have discovered that we carry it out alternatively. We switch between the primary and the secondary task. Okay, now looking at the key terms here, we have daydreaming. What is daydreaming? Daydreaming is basically a spontaneous and involuntary mental activity where attention drifts from the present moment to imagined thought. Okay, I think it's a lot of students will, will relate to this. All right, do you daydream while in class? What do you think? Okay, I think a lot of students do that. Okay, you could be in class, and then I added this picture because these are obviously some of the things I've heard my students talk about. Now, this is Roblox. Okay, although I don't play the games, but I learned about this game recently. Okay, maybe you're in a class and then you're thinking about, oh, let me just go home. Let me go home and then I'm gonna start playing Roblox. Okay, this is TikTok. Oh, I'm a TikToker. I want to create content. Okay, yeah, I need to go home and reply my messages. I have my phones at home. Okay, yeah, I'm imagining the holiday, the beach. Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting. Yeah, just I can't wait for that moment while you are in class. So that is what daydreaming is about. Okay, or you're thinking around this movie. I actually love this movie. Okay, Money Heist. All right, maybe you're thinking around it. Yeah, I'm going home to watch movie. Okay, I can't wait to complete the episode. Okay, or there's a new episode which has been released recently. Okay, let me go home and watch. Right. Or you're thinking about food. Okay, food is also an important factor. All right. So these are the concept of daydreaming. You could be in class and then your mind totally move out of the class. All right. So that is daydreaming. You lose concentration on the present moment. Your mind is elsewhere entirely. Okay. Now, another key term we have here is doodling. What is doodling here? This basically means creating simple and spontaneous drawings or patterns, which often without focused intention or artistic purpose. You're not trying to beautify the image, because if you're trying to beautify the image here when you're doodling, all right, it means it involves your attention. All right, doodling on the other hand doesn't involve your attention. Unlike daydreaming, don't forget, daydreaming, your attention is totally there. You are creating pictorial representation in your mind. Yeah, Money Heist, how is it going to be like? The new episode, how is it going to be like? Yeah, you have a lot of thoughts going on in your head. But then for doodling, you're doing something, but your attention is not there. Yeah, you're doing something, but then your attention is not there. You know, it's possible for me to be looking at someone and then the person will be like, "Oh, why are you staring at me?" Now I'll be like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't really looking at you. I was thinking." You understand? So that happens a lot. Okay, so I was looking at the person, but my attention is not there. All right, so let's assume that, okay, my sight on the person now is just like an example of doodling activity, okay, in the sense that I'm doodling, yes, but my hands are just moving, doing the drawing pattern. My attention is not really there. I'm not trying to beautify any image. I'm just shading it. I have placed my mind on an automatic standpoint, so it just keeps doing that thing more or less like a freestyle. My attention is not there. Okay, so commonly done while thinking or while listening or daydreaming. So you can do that while you're doing this. So take note, doodling is different from daydreaming. You can be daydreaming, your attention is involved in daydreaming, but obviously in doodling, attention is not involved. Now, often consistent, the doodling exercise or activities that people do, they draw shapes, they draw symbols, or they draw abstract design that maybe they will also find difficult to interpret. Who knows? Right now, daydreaming versus doodling. Now look at this. Daydreaming, you're in the class, maybe computer lab, you're imagining yeah, this is Iron Man. Yeah, you're imagining the movie, or you're in the class. Instead of working, you're imagining a party, or let me say a timeout at the beach. All right. Whereas doodling, on the other hand, you're just doing something on the image, but necessarily you're not focused there. All right. Okay. Now, background to the study. Daydreaming occurs when bored. Is that true? You daydream when you're bored. So let's say, for example, the class is boring. Student tends to imagine, they have enough time to now think about their movies, about something at home, whatever. All right. It also reduces focus on task. If you're in the class, it reduces the focus on the class, and then takes your attention to event you're daydreaming about. Now, people often doodle unrelated to the main task. So when you're doodling, okay, according to a study, it is discovered that the doodling is often unrelated to what you're doing in the class. So it's possible to be listening to a lecture and then you're doodling at the same time. You can be just drawing some shapes that are not really relevant, whereas you're focused on the class. Okay, it was unclear whether doodling harms attention. Okay, does doodling increase attention in the class, or does it reduce attention in the class? By diverting resources, or helps concentration and maintain arousal. So what do you think? Do you think doodling is going to enhance your attention in class, or is going to actually take away part of your attention in class? Just suggest something. What do you hypothesize based on your experience in life? Let me take some water. Okay. Yeah, the results will tell us if it's going to increase concentration or not. That is what obviously Andrade is trying to find out. Now, psychology being investigated in this study, we have primary task, which is your main task, your main activity. What do you give your focus, your attention to? You have attention itself, which is a cognitive process of focusing mental resources on specific information or task or stimuli while filtering out irrelevant detail. You focus on certain things and then you take out other detail. Now, divided attention is when you allocate attention to multiple tasks. However, there is a focus on one task, okay, whereas there is a reduced focus on the other one. All right. While human can multitask to some extent, divided attention often results in reduced performance or errors on one or more tasks due to limited cognitive resources. Okay, that is according to some studies anyway. But let's look at this particular study. Now, if we have divided attention, that means that a part of our attention has been given to doodling in this study, and then a part is on the, let me say, the major attention is on the main task. Now, moving forward, what is the aim of the study? All right. Does doodling help information processing by either doodling now? Does it help our information processing by either enabling them to attend more, that is to concentrate more, to enable us to concentrate more, or by enhancing our memory, or does it enhance our memory over the particular task we were doing? All right. Okay, take note. Memory is also one of the psychology being investigated. Yeah, our ability to remember certain stimuli over a period of time. So please, you can include that if you were to discuss that in your exam. Now, research method. What type of experiment is this? What do you think? What type of experiment was done in the study? Okay. Yeah, it is a laboratory experiment. All right. Participants were invited to an artificial environment. Okay. Now, research design. Between subject design or within subject design. It is actually between subject. Okay, what do we mean by between subject? Who can guess or who can remember what between subject is? When we talk about experimental design, all right, between subject basically means independent measures design. Do not forget. Within subject, on the other hand, is repeated measure design. All right, you can find that in some areas in the course book. Okay. Now, what this basically means when it's between subject independent group design, we have different conditions. Some participants were in the doodling condition. Some participants were in the control condition. That is no doodling. Okay, some people do and then they try to check their memory. Will their concentration level increased, and then with their memory increased, and then some people did not doodle. How is it going to be like? Will they have increased memory and concentration? Will they have that also increased? All right, now what is the sample size? 40 members of the MRC Applied Psychology Unit. All right, so just take note of the size, 40 people, and then where they're from. MRC Applied Psychology Unit. Okay, they were recruited from the general population and aged between 18 to 55. I have seen a question around this study before. Describe the sample used on Andrade, the study of Andrade doodling. So if you're to describe sample, it's often 3-mark question. I don't know why they do that, but it's often 3 marks. So please ensure you talk about 3 different details. So from this, I can get 3 marks already by mentioning that, okay, the sample used in the study were 40 participants, full stop. They were all from the MRC Applied Psychology Unit, full stop. Okay, their age ranged between 18 to 55, full stop. Then I have my 3 marks. Very easy, I guess. Okay, now they were all paid a small honorarium for taking part in the study. Okay, that is good, but then please, I don't advise students to include this in their description of sample, because this factor doesn't necessarily describe who they used. All right, this is just part of a procedure for me. All right, so please, students often write this, but it's not advisable. Okay, if you're really out of points, instead of leaving the space blank, then you can include this. But if you have other things to talk about, please, I advise you leave this as your last resort. Okay, now participants were recruited and tested immediately after they had finished a colleague's experiment. This is very important in the procedure. All right. Now, participants were included just immediately after a particular experiment. So they were all participated in an experiment, all right, and then immediately after that they were recruited. This is for a reason. Okay, I will tell you later. Right now, this means that they were opportunity sample. Okay, not volunteers. They were opportunity sample. So they were just participants that were available at that point in time after participating in this experiment. So they were opportunity samples. All right. Now, Andrade recruited participants from a medical research council. All right. So that's the MRC, please. Medical Research Council of the Psychology Department. Okay. Yeah. Um, Now, participants were recruited after completing an unrelated experiment. Okay. So they were asked to spend an additional 5 minutes helping with the research. Okay, I'm sorry, I understand you were done. You just finished a particular research. Okay, but please, can you just spare us a little time and then participate in this study for just 5 minutes? Please, 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 please join us. Okay, something like that. Now, the intention was to enhance boredom. Why were they selected just after a particular study? Why did you just go out to select participants outside there? Okay, this is just to enhance boredom. You know, people doodle when they're bored. People tend to, okay, so they wanted to actually enhance boredom. Okay, now in this process they were likely to doodle, and then there is they wanted to see their ability now to focus despite being in such environment. Okay, now they wanted to enhance burden of the task by testing people who were already thinking about going home. They had a different thought, and then they just wanted to use them for the experiment. Oh, they were going to be definitely tired already. Now, participants were randomly assigned to the control group. Random allocation, please, of participants to either the control group or the doodling group. So since there were 40 participants in total, so 20 in the experimental group and then 20 in the um, control group. All right, so control group they add 20 in total, 18 female and 2 male. In the doodling group now, experimental group, they add 20 in total, 70 female and then 3 males. All right, so it's fairly close, similar though, but the size is the same, 2020. Okay. Yeah, the researcher recorded a mock telephone message. Now, this is the method they used. They recorded a telephone message between, I don't know if it's two people or more than two people, okay? But obviously, it was a telephone message, people discussing on the phone, so it was recorded. And then the message used a monotonous voice. What is a monotonous voice? Imagine someone talking like, okay, hello, how are you? I'm trying to talk to you. Okay, I hope you're fine with it. Okay, that is more like a monotonous voice, not using different tone. Okay, all right, the rising tone, the falling tone. Like for example, if you want to ask question, hey, how are you doing? All right, raising your tone at some point in time. Okay, but then it's a monotonous, a single tone. So now when you listen to someone speaking with a single tone, it actually has a way of inducing boredom. Okay, but when someone is speaking with monotonous, I mean, uh, multiple tones, all right, it actually enhances concentration. So that is the way it is. Let me not dwell so much on that. All right, so they use a cassette recorder to do that. Now, the average speaking rate was 227 words per minute um, in the recording. All right, 227 words count in a minute. So after 60 seconds, they were able to speak 227 words. And then the recording was played at a comfortable volume for everyone. But don't forget, it's a monotonous voice that was used. The script now, okay, let me say the content in the telephone recording now included 8 names of people attending a party. Take note, this is more like a test. They never told the participant that they were going to have a test. Please take note of that. You say, please participate in this study. All right. So, um, okay, it included 8 names of people that were attending a party, 3 names and one cat that were not attending. So 3 names of people attending, 3 names of people that were not attending, and then the name of one cat that was not attending, and then 8 places were mentioned as well. Now, procedure for DV. Now, how was the DV recorded? They used a memory recall, okay, which is the DV. Would they be able to remember the information in the telephone recording? Okay, don't forget that they didn't tell them that they were going to have a test. Now, they had what we call monitored information. That is the name of the party goers, which means that they were told to pay attention to the names of party goers, but they didn't tell them to pay attention to the name of places. All right. You see one thing they did there. So they have what we call monitored information, and then they will have incidental information. So monitored information is basically, oh, please write the name notes of the party goers you heard in the audio. It's just more like a listening exercise. Okay. If, for example, you've done English as second language before, you will remember listening activity, all right, where you have to pay attention to some people talking and then you pick out the answer. All right, so they were going to listen to names of party goers. They were told to do that, all right, but they were not told to write down the names of places that were mentioned in the recording. All right, now how do they really define their DV? So now, how do they identify correct answers? Okay, if you give the name of someone going to the party, then it is a correct answer. Now, the correct answer minus false alarm. What is false alarm now? Name in the recording but not going to the party. So if for example you included maybe 6 names of people going to the party, and then during the test you also included 2 names out of the 3 people that were not going to the party. So this will be taken away from this, and then you're going to have, for example, 6 minus 2 to give you 4. But if you include all the correct names, 8 people, so and then you will have no false alarm, then it's going to be 8 score. All right. Now, if you had a mishearing, okay, that is, instead of writing Craig is the name of the person, but you wrote Greg. So there is a form of understanding. Those that did English as second language will also familiarize with this. There's a level of acceptance that is given to those that are able to write during the listening exercise, but it might not exactly be the same thing, but if it's close, then it's going to be fine, right? Craig and Greg is very similar. So maybe based on your understanding, you are used to the name Greg, all right? And then you add Craig, you might misinterpret it to be Greg. So which means that you heard, but it's just a mishearing. So which is going to be fine. But if it is entirely different, it will be wrong. Okay, I believe that is taken. Now, if the person actually is Craig, but you wrote Greg's sister that was going to the party, then that will be wrong. Okay, because it's not actually the sister, it's Greg, or Craig, it's Craig himself. Okay. All right, so this is what the script looks like, the content of the recording. Hi, how are you doing? Are you doing anything on Saturday? I'm having a birthday party and I was hoping you could come. It's not actually my birthday, it's my sister Jane's. Okay, she'll be 21. Okay, all right, so these are different names that were mentioned: William, Claire, okay, Susie, Craig, Jenny here. All right, different names of people that will be attending. So in the party, they mentioned those that will be attending and those that will not be attending. All right. Now, the procedure: participants were recruited right after the completing an unrelated study. Okay, participants were placed in one or the 2 groups, doodling or control. Participants in the doodling group were asked to shade 1 centimeter diameter shape on A4 paper. So there was an A4 paper given to the participants in the doodling group. All right, so that A4 paper had different shapes. Okay, it had different shapes, so you can imagine maybe square, rectangle, circle, different shapes like that on the A4 paper. So they were asked to doodle by shading. So their shading, the doodling activity will be just shading the shapes on the A4 paper while they listen to the information, to the recording, using a pencil. So they were also given pencil. All right, so it looks like this. Okay, moving forward. Now, there were 10 shapes per row. Okay, so 10 shape on a particular row, and then you have the next shape. Now, each row alternated between squares and circles. All right, could be square, it could be circle. Now, there was a left hand side margin of 4.5 centimeters, so the participant could write down the target information. Do not forget, what is the target information? Can you remember that? Okay, yeah, that is the name of people going to the party. What is the incidental information? Can you remember that? Yeah, that is the name of places that were mentioned in the recording. Okay, so the 4.5 centimeter margin by the left is around this area. Okay, this area here where they can write the names of the party goer. So they were only told to write the names of the party goer. All right. Participants in the control group, on the other hand, were given a piece of lined papers and a pencil. All right. So lined paper has actually been proven to discourage doodling. Okay, because lined paper, people tend to write on it rather than just shade. If you have A4 paper, for example, or a blank space, you can easily doodle around those kind of paper as compared to having a lined paper. Okay, so the doodling group add this, and then the control group add this line paper, just like your notebook at school. Right. Now, participants were led into a quiet, visually dull room and tested individually. Right. So, not necessarily individually per se, they were there as a group, okay, but they had their individual activities to do. The following instructions were read out. Now, take note, it was a quiet and visually dull room. So, which means it was going to enhance boredom. So people do when they are bored. Now, the instruction were, I am going to play you a tape, or I prefer to say play a tape for you. Okay. Pretend the speaker is a friend inviting you to a party. Now, the tape is dull. I understand it's a monotonous tape, but that's okay because I don't want you to remember any of it. Write down the names of people who will definitely be coming to the party, excluding yourself. Ignore the names of those who can't come. Do not write anything else. Okay, so I think I explained that you were supposed to pay attention to names of people coming, and then that's it. All right, a door room looked like this, and then 8 names of people attending. There were 3 names of people not attending. There was 1 cat, and then there were 8 names of places, and there were irrelevant detail in the study. All right. Now, participants in the doodling condition were told that neatness and speed in shading their doodle didn't matter. So don't be concentrated on trying to make your doodling neat. So we are not paying attention to that. So in other words, it's a way of trying to tell the participant not to concentrate on their doodling exercise. Okay? Now, they were told that shading was to relieve the boredom in the task. Okay. Now, participant listen to the 2.5 minutes tape. Okay. Don't forget, I've seen a question asking to give a description of the audio recording. Okay. Don't forget, it is a 2.5 minutes recording. It's they used a monotonous voice and then 227 words per minute. Okay, good. Now, and then wrote down the names as instructed. After the recording, the researcher collected the sheets and talked to them for about 1 minute. Okay. Yeah. Now, they apologized for misleading them about the imminent memory test. Okay. So, they actually gave them a test afterwards. All right. Okay. Now, half of the participants were then asked, excuse me, half of the participants, they apologized, and then half of the participants were asked to recall as many names as they could. Don't forget they've collected the sheet, as they could, of the people attending the party, and then the names of places. They didn't ask them to write the names of places earlier. Now, they did this. This is called counterbalancing, though. Now, half of the participants, they were told to record the names first, and then after that, to record the names of places, all the names of people they could remember, and then all the names of places they heard in the audio. And then the remaining half of the participants were told to call the places first, and then the names of people attending the party. So that is the concept of counterbalancing when you go to your research method, right? To alternate between the order, the procedure of the experiment. So half did name first and then places, and then the remaining half did places first and then names of the people attending. All right. Okay, now during the debriefing after the task, participants were asked if they had suspected that they were going to be given a memory test. Okay, if they had suspected, then their level of concentration would have been influenced by that, all right, which would have affected doodling as the IV. So their suspicious ability would have enhanced their memory naturally. Either they were in the control group or they were in the doodling group. Okay, so they asked that question. All right, so I mentioned this earlier: half names and then place and then names and then party. So it was alternated. Now, those in the doodling group shaded a mean of 36.3 shapes, okay, which ranges from 3 to 110. So some participants actually shaped either one or more, shaped just three out of those shapes, whereas one participant shaped all the way to 110. Do you remember what this tells you? This is individual explanation of the debate, okay? The differences in the shapes shaded, all right, support individual differences. Okay, some people shaded 3, some shaded 110 all the way. So we showed that there's a form of personality influencing their shading behavior. Okay, but the results from the study will tell us situational explanation. The debate. Now, one of the participants failed to doodle, so was replaced. All right, this is also a participant difference, individual difference, okay, rather. All right, so the participant was replaced because he failed to doodle. Now, none of the participants in the control group doodle, okay, yeah, and that is what we want, because if they are doodled, then it would have affected their result as well. I mean, that means the IV is actually present in both group. And then what are we comparing? So what is control group in itself? Control group is a group where there is absence of IV. So the control group are not supposed to doodle. So that is what we want. Right now, only 3 participants in the doodling condition and 4 in the control group suspected a memory test. Oh, so that is a problem. So all claim that they had then actively tried to remember the information for the test. Okay, so they tried to remember. So it wasn't that you just wrote down the names anyhow. So since the news was a test, now that they've been told, okay, they try to remember, oh, what were the names I wrote then? Was I concentrating on the names I was writing or not? You see, now this is the result. For the doodling group, they had average number of corrected names that were written out of 8. Okay, they add 7.8, and then for the control group they add 7.1. Now, number of false alarms that they add, we have just 1 false alarm here, and then we have 5 false alarms here. So the doodling group did slightly higher than the control group. Okay, now if a response indicates plausible mishearing, okay, we mentioned this, Greg and Craig, it was scored as correct. Okay, yeah. So each participant, this is still the same study, all right. Now, how many participants out of 20 were able to remember all the 8 names correctly? 15 people were able to remember all the 8 names correctly. And then whereas in the control group, only 9 people could remember all the 8 names correctly. So which means, what was the difference? Doodling actually helped a lot of people to remember correctly. okay, but you want to criticize, right? I think that is coming to your mind right now. You want to say, okay, what if we have people with higher level of memory in that were put in the doodling condition, and then we have people that just happen to be by chance unable to remember well? Well, that is one of the weakness in this study. All right. Now, each participant was given a monitoring performance score calculated by subtracting the number of false alarm from the number of correct names written down. Now, a total of 15 in the doodling group and then 9 in the control group scored 100% record all the 8 names correctly. Now, monitored performance was significantly higher in the doodling group condition with this 7.7, significantly higher than in the control group, okay, which had a score of 6.9. Okay, so obviously they've taken away the false alarms. All right, so we have 7.7 here and then 6.9 here. All right, so doodling group had higher performance compared to the control condition. Now this is how the result looks like. Okay, these are the names, the monitored information. All right, we have the control group and then we have the doodling group. We have correct scores, we have 4.3, and then the doodling group we have for the monitored information now, and then we have the doodling group 5.3. Okay, false alarm we have 0.4, and then false alarm here we have 0.3, so which gives us a memory score. Now when you subtract this from this, it's going to give us 4.0. You know, this in particular is not exactly 4.3. Okay, it's 4.3 something. It's approximation. All right, so when you subtract this from this, the approximation is just 4.0, and then when you subtract this from this, let's assume this is 5.39 for example, and this is 0.30. So when you subtract, it's going to give you 5.09, which also still gives us approximation of 5.1. All right, so and then the names of places. Now we have the correct score, which is 2.1, and then for doodling group we have 2.6, and then the false alarm 0.3, 0.3, so which gives us a memory score of this and then this. You can see that everybody performed better in the monitored information compared to the incidental information, because they were not told to write the names of places, so they had lower score, and then the monitored one they had higher score because they were told to write the names of people that were going. But however, it was discovered that the doodling group performed higher than the control group, okay, in the monitored, and then also in the incidental information, okay, they performed higher than the control group. All right. Participants in doodling condition recorded a mean of 7.5 correct pieces of information compared to 5.8 in the control group. Okay, that is, I believe, the total. Okay, yeah, when you this plus this and then this plus this. Okay, so in total, when you add that together, all right, now overall monitored names were recorded more than places. Okay, monitored name, that is names of people going, were remembered more than names of places. Okay, recall was significantly better for participants in the doodling group condition compared to the control group. Okay, now even after removing participants who suspected a test, a significant difference remained. So when you take out those that suspected the test, all right, you know, you did that after giving them the entire test, and then you ask them, oh, do you suspect anything? And then you remove their score to still calculate the result. You still discover that, okay, there was still significant difference between the score of the doodling group and then the control group. All right. Now, Andrade concluded that what? Participants who performed a shape-shading task, which is doodling group, concentrated better on a mock telephone message than participants who listened to the message with no concurrent task. They were not doing secondary task. They were just listening alone. So what does that tell you? Doodling can be used to enhance attention. Okay, now this was evident in both the monitored performance task and the recall task, which is the places. However, it was unclear whether doodling improved recall by helping doodlers notice more targets. Okay, how doodling actually helps the concentration, it was unclear, it wasn't certain. Okay, does it really help them to notice more target information? Okay, that is their level of concentration, or by encouraging deeper processing, okay, meditation of the telephone message. How does it really help to improve their memory? Okay, that is not really clear. Okay, so, and that is the study. All right, evaluate based on strength and weakness experiment. Okay, it's a laboratory experiment. One thing to always remember about laboratory experiment is that there is control of extraneous variables. Okay, they were able to control the environment so well. Everything was dull. The telephone message was dull. The room was dull. It was meant to enhance and induce uh, doodling behavior, and everybody doodle. There's standardization. All right, they were all given the same kind of papers in the control group, which is line paper, and then in the experimental group, they all had A4 papers with shapes in it. All right, the kind of data they got, all right, it is a numerical data. If you get the names right or wrong, so it's numerical data. What is good about that? You can easily compare between the experimental group and the control group to have good understanding of the results, good interpretation. All right. So, okay, one weakness of the experiment is that don't forget that there could be demand characteristics. Okay, some people already suspected that there could be a test. All right. Also, those that behaved the way they behaved, I mean, they could have just acted that way because they got a hint, or maybe their behavior might be different from a natural environment. Who knows? Okay, so validity, how valid is it? All right, it is valid. Internal validity because there is standardization, obviously. Yeah. All right. So it was obviously the doodling that really influenced the participant. Okay, because you add random allocation, and you add the participant assigned to different groups, so they listen to the same voice notes, I mean the same recordings. Okay, however, it was only the IV that was different. What is the IV there? Doodling. You gave some people shapes, you told them to shape, I mean to shade the shapes. All right, and then you give some people line papers just to write the names. So the ivy was clearly spelt out there. All right, and then you could see that as influencing, that's the factor influencing the result. Okay, which is their ability to recall the names. All right, so there is internal validity. It actually measures what it's supposed to measure. All right, it measures the ivy well. Okay, however, there is also reduced ecological validity because the behavior of the participants might be different if they were to be recorded, for example, in their school daily activities, maybe during school time. All right, in their natural environment, so their behavior might be more natural in their school compared to recording them in a laboratory, an artificial environment, a dull room. Okay, now also do not forget that the participants were um, they used the repeat independent measures design, so there could be participant differences. Okay, so some people could be naturally smarter. Maybe the doodling group is naturally smarter than the control group. Who knows? Okay, so that could have affected the result as against the IV now. So you can criticize that under the validity. All right, so there's reduced internal validity because of that explanation. Okay, and there could be at the same time increased internal validity because of standardization in the process, making the IV stand out in the doodling group, and then ensuring that there is no IV by giving a lined paper, which is known to discourage good doodling. All right, the sample size, they use 20 here, 20 there, doodling 20, control 20. That is fairly good enough, I think. All right. However, it's important to note that we have a lot of females as compared to male. All right. So that is two female in the control, and then three female in the no, two male in the control, and then three male in the doodling group, and then we have 18 female and 17 male. So, uh, respectively. Okay, so which means that the gender representation is not good. It's poor. All right, they were not well represented. Okay, what about the ethics? Okay, one thing to mention is that there was deception. They were not told about the memory test, so they had to apologize. All right, there's deception, which is not good for valid consent. They need to tell the participant the true aim of the study and everything they're going to go through before they give their consent. So if you didn't tell them everything, so it's not good. It's deception. So, however, what was good there? What was good? Okay. What else was done? That was good though. All right. Okay. We can see that the fact that they used comfortable volume. All right. So they protected the participant from stress, from harm. All right. What else can be mentioned about that? Yeah, they debriefed them. So debriefing is a good ethic guideline. Okay, they debrief the participants, so that is good. All right, now using the grief method. Now, okay, generalizability. It had poor generalizability due to the sample being from the same place. Okay, they were all volunteer sample. Okay, that is good. Okay, yeah, sorry, they were not usually volunteer sample. They were mostly opportunity sampling. Okay, they were participants that were readily available after the study. Okay, but there is a sense of volunteer because they were spoken to that, please will you participate in the study, all right, just for a few minutes. Okay, 5 minutes of your time. So they gave in their opinion there somehow. So that is the reason this volunteer sample was there. All right, so which means that the fact that they were all the kind of people that were willing to participate now. All right, so which means that it could have been just a segment of the population that was involved, the kind of people that would necessarily want to volunteer. So it's a part of a segment of people's, so of the entire population. There could be some people that do not really want to participate in such, and so that kind of persons, okay, they were not represented in the study. However, the participant group had a good range of ages 18 to 55, so that is good. They used the use of place names is not a major criticism, as they could be easily adjusted in future study conducted in other countries. Okay, so this is flexible. All right. All right, now reliability. The study's reliability is good due to the use of standardization. Okay, you use 2.5 minutes for everyone. Okay, 227 word per minute, the same thing that everybody experienced. Okay, this can be easily reproduced when you use even those details, and then to get to the reliability of the study. Now, a script for the audio tape is available for replication. All right, so that is also another factor. Okay, now application to real world. Now, the results suggest that doodling might be useful for students during revision. Doodling while listening to a podcast or reading notes could help improve concentration and recall. So what did I tell you about application to real world? Try to focus on who does it benefit and how does it benefit them. So you can talk about maybe teachers now using this activity, encouraging students, okay, to doodle in class in order to enhance their attention, okay, or their memory during revision or while preparing for exam. Okay, I'm not necessarily telling you to go to class and then start doodling if your teacher has not given you the permission. Okay, that would be rude. Okay, just you can speak with your teacher about it to experiment that. Okay, if doodling is going to help your performance, your concentration, okay, over time. So if you are to apply this in a real life, question comes around this. Hope you, I believe you're aware. So they can just ask you to talk about the application of doodling study to real world. So you can just pick teacher to student. Okay, teacher can do this to encourage students to be able to increase the level of concentration or memory during study. Now, validity is reasonable as the study effectively meets its stated aim. Is validity focusing on what it is supposed to focus on, doodling. It lacks a measure of daydreaming, though. However, They never measured if the participant daydreamed during the study. That is a problem though. Okay, the study is low in mundane realism. Mundane realism talks about ecological validity. All right, is it ecologically valid? Does it reflect the behavior of the participants in a real world? That is questionable. Okay, now ethic. There was some deception. I mentioned that earlier. All right, they didn't tell them that there will be a test. The researcher apologized for doing that and then fully debriefed that is good. All right, the deception was deemed justifiable and necessary for the study. So there are some deceptions that are justifiable. Okay, I do tell my students, especially when they carried out the experiment, yeah, you might deceive participants really, yeah. If you have to do that, if it's justifiable, then it's okay. Yeah, that can still be criticized, I understand, but at the other hand, it can be justified. Okay, so if it's not justified, then why do you have to do that in the first place? All right, so other consideration, the use of independent measures design. How about you use repeated measure so that you'll be able to remove participant differences, which is also the same thing as individual differences. Okay, now people in the doodling group may already doodle frequently when concentrating. Okay, which could affect the result. Okay, okay, so now this particular one is that people in the doodling group may have mastered the ability of doodling, all right, such that it has influenced their behavior in one way or the other. All right, I know this is a little complex, okay, just a little, but it's easy actually. People in this group may have been practicing this doodling for a very long time, such that it has gotten to a point that it has now affected their result. Okay, they've practiced doodling in a way that it's um they've mastered it such that it helps them concentrate more. Okay, you know, there is a way that I remember when I started doing some activities, it was difficult for me to do other activity, concurrent activity. Okay, now it got to a point that over time I began to master it. Now, the fact that I master it now might have influenced my ability in one way or the other. So the study is actually supposed to measure doodling as an activity that was done just during the exercise, to be able to compare that with the control group. But if these people have been doodling beforehand, it might have either increased their concentration or reduced their concentration in one way or the other. All right. So now participants in the doodling group may have had better memory. We mentioned that earlier. Now this factor reduced the validity of the findings. All right. These are issues to talk about. Now individual versus situational explanation. Both sides of the argument are present. Some participants that have used a similar strategy before or have a personality type, like being an extrovert, that requires extra stimulation when processing information. So these are variables that could have affected different participants. Okay, different personality types. Okay, we saw that. Okay, being an extrovert, that could have affected their level of processing information. Okay, also when it comes to doodling too, we saw participants, like I mentioned earlier, that do differently. Okay, there were different participants, or let me say personality, that reflected in the study. We also have participants that were able to score all the names, get all the names correctly, and then those that were not able to do that. So those were individual differences. All right, but then when it gets to situation, now the doodling group, okay, um, had improved memory recall. I mean, information recall compared to the control group. So this basically talks about the fact that all the participants in the doodling group had higher score. Down the participant in the control group in total had lower score. So that shows that the environment they found themselves, which is doodling group condition, and then the environment the control group found themselves, which is no doodling condition. So those conditions influenced their performance as a group. So that is the situational explanation. Now, the process of doodling in a given situation may have helped people retain information as a group. So the situation they found themselves could have influenced them. So This individual and situational explanation. In summary, what I do advise is that if you want to remember this, focus on individual difference. You'll be able to discuss the individual explanation. For situation, look at what happened as a group. Everybody did this and everybody did this. So now, what happened as a group here and what happened as a group here? Now, the differences there will now be based on situation. If this group performed better than this group, then this group performed better because they were in this group, and then this group performed lower because they were in this group. So the condition in that group made them perform lower. So if the group in the control group had been brought to the group in the doodling group, probably they would have performed better too because of the situation. So I think that explains the situation aspect influencing behavior there. All right. So that is my reference, Mr. Gregory Online, and then Mr. Ross Stephenson. I got some pictures from his videos as well. Okay. So that is it. That is my name, Paul Adebiyi. All right. So please, I want to admonish you. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Okay. And like my video. That is the favor you can do for me. Okay, so I will really appreciate that. I'm trying to grow the channel, so please, I need your help in return. Okay, so thank you very much. I wish you all the best in your preparation. Okay, in the preparation for your exam. So all the best. Thank you very much, and bye.